Christian, Jewish,
Israeli Giuliano,
Israeli Giuliano, Arab Giuliano, public Giuliano, a triangle.
You're reading for the character type of Arab Giuliano, Israeli Giuliano, public persona of Giuliano Marchamis.
Type, what do you mean type?
Facets of a character. It's a conceptual film.
He died, no?
He was assassinated with his infant son on his lap.
So I'm playing a dead man.
Why is he here? Are we supposed to solve political problems?
A Jew, a Christian, a Muslim.
Think of it as three parts of one man.
A triangle.
Maybe for once the Arab does not play the terrorist?
Maybe for once the Arabs don't commit terrorist acts.
Maybe for once the Israelis doesn't bomb Gaza?
Maybe for once you understand it's retaliation.
Maybe next time I throw a rock in your face?
You've done that before. What did that get you?
A bloody nose.
Don't fucking touch me! This is what they want us to do.
Come outside and do your job.
We are writing the script.
Well, I'm talking to you.
New pages.
Not starting from scratch. Three messiahs.
I've noticed a lot.
Another triangle.
Another repetition.
Repetition? Why? Guys, there's no solution. We coexist.
Are you insane? Get us out of here!
The triangle. Israeli Giuliano, Arab Giuliano, public Giuliano. Three Giulianos. Three of us. A triangle. All claim the origin story of God. Three messiahs.
What the fuck are they doing? Correct.
Welcome, and let's get to this topic that your film dabbles in. You pursued a story of this character, Giuliano, which I've never heard of. That was, I researched him, and that was quite of a story. Can you tell us a little bit of background about the real person and how you got to the story, to script, making a movie?
Yeah, well, Giuliano's a really interesting human being because at least what attracted me to his story was that he has a Jewish Israeli mother, Arna, who he actually made a documentary about at some point. She was an activist, and a Palestinian Christian father. So that's immediately made him really interesting to me, right? And I think for me, what was happening is I was, at the time, this was a few years ago, I was trying to put together a gallery exhibition. I was curating an exhibition of artists that were Palestinian and Israeli, or different artists, artists that were Palestinian and artists that were Israeli, making artwork about intergenerational trauma, obviously, because there's enough trauma to go around on both sides, right? So the problem that I was having, I found some really incredible, museum level artists, but they both had hesitations about being in the same gallery together. And so I couldn't make that work happen. I couldn't make that exhibition happen. So I had an empty gallery that I had to fill. This was kind of, I think, March or April of maybe 2021 or so. And then I had a show that I had to fill in October. So the gallery director said, listen, I don't care what you do. You got to put something in there. Why don't you make a film?
Yeah.
And the way that Giuliano came up was a conversation that I was having with another kind of advisor who was helping me with this, who said, listen, this is a kind of dangerous thing to try to do, to put both these sides together, because obviously there's so much tension and it's fraught with so much history that, and she mentioned to me, Giuliano Marchamis said, this is the person who tried to do this and he got killed for it.
And also yourself, you're Jewish.
I'm Israeli by birth, right?
So,
and I'm Jewish, so I have obviously have a relationship to this biographically. But Giuliano's story was amazing to me because I started researching him and I saw that he, who he was. He had been an actor. He was an activist. He had this theater company in Jenin, and he actually, in an interview at some point, in a joking way, said, I'll tell you how I think I'm going to die. Some, fucked up Palestinian is going to come up to me and shoot me.
Yeah, you included that in the film.
Yeah, it's in the film.
Pretty good touch at the end.
The actual video. But when I found out that that's actually what happened, that he did get assassinated, it's unknown who it was that assassinated him. There are many theories about whether it was somebody who was Arab or Palestinian or an Israeli, because, he had friends and enemies on both sides. Palestinians thought that he was maybe a spy for the Israelis. Some Israelis thought he was collaborating with Palestinian. So there was enough suspicion to go around, even though he was doing some really great work in Jenin. So as soon as I saw the video and I read that he had actually gotten killed that way, I thought, well, there's got to be a movie here somewhere, and that's why I kind of threw myself into the research, because it seemed like there's got to be something here.
Well, if I had to throw my guess out there, I think the people who killed him, they did not want a person like him trying to do something positive and interfere with the setting of the conflict. Some people have interests on keeping that framework, and they are the one to make the decisions of approach or not approach, things like that. Because usually people who are doing things like that, they got sacrificed because they are getting in the way of other people who think they own the conflict.
Absolutely.
They own the initiative to do that.
There are a lot of theories. Listen, he was encouraging young Palestinian boys and girls to perform in theater as a way of kind of dealing with the kind of trauma of their lives, and as a way of kind of speaking back in an activist way. And I think that in itself was radical, was having boys and girls on stage together, doing things like Romeo and Juliet or whatever it was. So there was plenty of people who were invested in him not continuing to do what he did. And I think that's kind of what made his existence so fraught with tension, is that he is the conflict, right? He is Palestinian and he is Jewish.
I mean, like I said, to confirm my theory, I mean, you're familiar with the Egyptian president, Sadat. You know, he reached out and did something nice. He got killed because he kind of crossed some other people who think that they own the decision to make. Normalize
Rabin as well. Rabin also, right?
Yeah, from the other side, that too.
Right.
Right. And there's plenty of writers and artists. Some I remember familiar with them. You know, from both sides, they take initiative, or they write. They do some. They do the unusual, and they either get threatened or they sacrifice their lives.
Yeah.
And I noticed also your background. You're a producer.
I was. I started out as a film producer a long time ago, almost 3 decades ago. That was the first kind of 10 years of my career in Hollywood, was working for producers that made like big studio films, right? Like The Patriot or Saving Private Ryan.
I saw your name on that one. That was grow up on that movie. That's pretty good. A
lot of people learn their history from historical epics, which is what I used to do when I was a kid. So
movies have a good impact to quickly teach people things. That's why sometimes they can be dangerous.
Right.
And if you don't, you can teach 10 million people instantly a story or about, facts about history, versus waiting for the books in the schools and things like that.
Yeah, it comes with responsibility. I think. Yeah. So I did that for the first 8 years of my career, and then I actually went back to school to study photography, fine art, filmmaking, and I'm always involved in and interested in movies. That's never not been a part of my life.
I feel you. I have the same itch.
Yeah.
So yeah. And the cast of the film, what's their nationalities? I was curious.
Yeah, well, each cast member is different, right? Salome Azizi, who plays the Yael, the female director, is British Iranian.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Meyer, who plays a character that's called the Public Giuliano, who's kind of the one that tries to mediate between the other personalities. That he was Israeli. Musa Kraish, who plays the Arab Giuliano, or the Palestinian Giuliano, he was Palestinian, and then our Israeli Giuliano was played by Kareem Saleh, who's Lebanese by birth, right? So it was really important to find people that weren't just the right actors, but really had a connection to this region, to this history, in a very personal and biographical way.
Yeah, the one that played the Israeli character, that threw me off because he was convincing, and his accent. And I was like, I thought he was Israeli.
Absolutely.
Because I didn't look at their names. I watched the movie, and then later I went to the website and I see the names, and his name was not Israeli because
No.
I thought 100% he was.
He nailed. I mean, he nailed it. I think they all did. You know,
I mean,
I think that's part of it,
the
right? Is
look and
that,
everything, yeah.
yeah, that they're not, that they themselves are now performing the part from a different place, right? Because someone who's Lebanese playing an Israeli is kind of radical. I think they all, you know, did it brilliantly. And what was really important is that when we would cut the performance and talk about the script, which is part of the film, right? When we would have these conversations, they were real conversations. We had real disagreements, and it's because everybody had a real opinion about something. Like Adam Meir, who's Israeli, didn't agree with us about everything. You know, nobody agreed on everything. There was always
So the cuts when it goes to from the black and white to color, I was trying to like figure out the tricks while watching it, and I was like the cuts to the color. I thought it was also scripted. Because it keeps going from the black and white, and I was like, okay, they are here, action, they are doing this, and then it goes to the color, and then that's what I see you sometimes coming in,
right.
And so the whole thing was kind of live almost. Like,
that was live. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you even see in black and white is improvised, right? So you know, we would do these really long, like 20-minute takes, and we were running 3 or 4 or sometimes 5 cameras at once for 6 hours a day, and we just, you know, we would have to stagger each camera so we would never have to cut everything at the same time. So we were always shooting all shots at the same time, close-ups, masters, 2 shots. We had 1 camera on a couple characters, you know, so we would have all of our coverage. It would allow us to do these really, really long takes. And a lot of the stuff that they introduced into the film itself was just improvisation. There were times when there were arguments that I would look at the producers about and say, like, do we have to cut? Are they really starting to fight? Because it was very convincing, right? Because there were times we just didn't agree, right? And that became part of the film.
Yeah, like I'm assuming, you know, especially the part when you have a Lebanese actor, you have a Palestinian actor, and they throw in the conversations when the Palestinians went to, you know, Arafat, when they went to Lebanon and trashed the place, and that particular one there. So if it was a real life, I mean, that would be the moment where they will argue about it.
Yeah, because it's not, an Israeli wouldn't say that.
And you have a Lebanese actor.
Right, exactly. So it's like the performance is slipping in moments, and I think that's kind of what makes it interesting, is that you don't, like, is this performed? Is it real? Which part of this personality is the real personality, and which part of it is part of the performance?
Well, yeah, then you got me, because I was, you know, I couldn't tell.
Yeah, that was intentional. I'm glad.
Yeah, I was
people saying to me all the time they were confused, and I say, "Good, you got it."
I mean, I wasn't confused about the movie. I was the making of it, and I was like trying to, you know, crack the code what you did, but you did good.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, that was very good and tricky. So, and then how was the movie received? And especially it was, you know, finished in 2023. What happened after that? It's kind of very current.
Well, here's the thing. During the shooting of the film and pre-production, we were always having conversations about, wow, this is so relevant right now. I mean, this issue is never not relevant, but in the last 5 or 6 years, obviously, I think it's come to the forefront for a much larger population of people, especially in the United States. So getting into festivals was not easy. It took a really long time. People had... you know, I think a lot of festivals were very hesitant to take something on like this because the film doesn't kind of clearly announce, like, if it's on a side or one side or another. In fact, that's the kind of the point of the film. And, you know, we applied to a lot of Israeli film festivals. We applied to a lot of Arabic film festivals, and both of those rejected us. Most of those.
Yeah, because with the October 7, I'm assuming everybody assumes that you have to choose a side.
Well, we were applying, yes.
Your film was very uncomfortable around what was going on, and you're not specifically choosing a side. So.
Exactly. I mean, here's the thing. We actually on October 7th, I was getting on an airplane to go to the Warsaw International Film Festival to show the film in Warsaw. So we were actually the kind of submission cycle for festivals was a bit before that. So people were already hesitant. But after that festival, of course. I mean, again, these kinds of movies about this subject have a very hard time getting distribution. And we feel very lucky that Freestyle agreed to distribute this film because not a lot of people were running to distribute it because, again, it's not a film that clearly tells you what it is for or against. That's the point.
In a way, yes, you suffered because the circumstances kind of became against you, but also you couldn't have picked the right time to make that movie.
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah.
The conversation,
sure.
because all the garbage that happened after October 7th, and everything that went down, and all the anti-Semitic stuff, and everything kind of like flipped over.
Right.
Nobody
Absolutely.
saw it coming.
Absolutely.
And then the film urges the conversation, kind of like, okay, here's a scenario where one guy has all three.
Right.
So what are we gonna do here?
Yeah, there are people like that in the world, and it's not
there
just
are plenty, especially in that region.
Of course, and it's not really. It's also about being able, as a human being, even if you have no biographical relationship to it, knowing that you can simultaneously find the events of October 7th absolutely horrifying because it's unrepresentably terrible, and also feeling sympathetic towards the Palestinian people and knowing that they're not being served by Hamas and wanting them to not be killed and displaced in the numbers that they are. So you can believe in both of those things at the same time, and those things may seem contradictory. And I think that's a more realistic and honest understanding of what a lot of people feel, which is, there are real problems with Netanyahu's regime, and it's not serving the situation very well. And it's not acceptable for people to be taken hostage and murdered in the way that they were in October 7th. And it's also not acceptable for Palestinians to be displaced. It's like all these things can be true at the same time, and they happen to actually be true at the same time. And the difficulty of that is what this film is about.
Well, it was,
and I think that's
October 7 was a long way in the making. I mean, if you want to be honest about it, I'm not shocked. You go back all the way to Syria and Egypt, Bashar, Nasser, we're going to throw him in the sea and all that stuff, the threats. I mean, the 67 and 73 and all those wars. I mean, it was obvious. They kind of like set up the mentality and then just kept feeding it for 40, 50 years or 60 years. So for it to happen now, honestly, I wasn't shocked.
Right. Well, somebody gains from that.
As horrifying as it is, it wasn't the event itself or that reaction. Wasn't shocked. It became a business.
Right. Well, what's really a problem for me is the kind of extremism that gets you to a place like that, and that extremism. There's enough of that extremism to go around on all sides in every capacity. And I think that's what this movie is trying to push back against, is that kind of extremism is not constructive, whether it's coming from Israelis, Palestinians, Americans, Democrats, Republicans, right? It doesn't matter. It's the extremism that is creating, I think, a lot of the difficulty that we're experiencing right now. And that's what we wanted to really push back against, was that extremism.
Well, that extremism, honestly, like, it has to be addressed. You have to talk about the elephant in the room. I don't know in Israel if they are aware of that or some. It's a religion. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, if you ever listen to preachers and speeches in Arabic, and you understand Arabic on a daily basis in Palestine and every other Arab country, I mean, if you sit down for any prayer and Friday prayer, I can, translate it for you. It's the same script, generation after generations, on a daily basis, 24/7. So they don't want to address the fact that the religion is the driving engine behind this conflict that doesn't want to end. Because human beings fought over land for, it's a human business. It's business as usual. For centuries, they fight. I take your land, you take mine. We fight for a few years, and then I get over it, and we move on. I mean, history books are full of that, but they stop. They start and they stop. This particular one, obviously, it's not about the land. The land is like, it's just a piece in a puzzle.
Well, it's a big part of it.
But the religion has an interpretation of what needs to happen. And,
Right.
they discuss it. And in your movie, that's what I appreciate about you trying to bring the human element to it. It's okay, let's talk about it. We're just people, we have disagreement. We're going to fight. But like, there's always a way for people to kind of like sit down and talk about it. But when you throw religion in the middle, especially one that is dead set on a specific vision, you have to address it.
Yeah, I mean, I would push back a little and say that I think extremism exists in all three major religions in a way, and we know that because we have, we have Christian fundamentalism, we've got Jewish fundamentalism. I mean, the problem I think is the fundamentalism, and I think all fundamentalist thought seeks extreme outcomes, and there's enough of that to go around. I'm not ready to say that one population is particularly more responsible for a certain kind of extremism, because look at what's happening everywhere in the world right now.
It's not a population. It's the, what do you call it? The doctrine, the books. You have a catalog or you have a manual to do things. It could be whichever it is. And that's the issue they need to address for all three religions, if you say.
Yeah, I mean, we were trying to do is really kind of lean into the humanism of it, which is ultimately that the only side you really need to be on is on the side of human rights and people deserving to exist peacefully. And I don't care what side you're on. That is a basic human right that shouldn't be ignored, right? So we've tried very hard to not push this into a kind of side that's right or wrong. But I also know that the fact that we are collaborating together as artists from the Middle East means that we're immediately kind of assigned to the side of people who are okay working together, right? And that's offensive to anyone. That might be offensive to somebody that we even worked together as Palestinians.
Oh yeah, you committed in their eyes. You committed like the biggest sin you can commit.
Yeah. So that's already kind of putting us on the out. So I think for that reason and others, like people were very hesitant to show the film, and we found ourselves in situations where even people we were working with on the film wanted us to kind of declare like, well, I want to know what side you're on. Like I had a musician call me from the studio while they were recording the soundtrack, who was an Israeli, I think he was a guitarist. And he said, look, I have to know I got to understand what side you're on. Is this film going to be shown in a Free Palestine rally? And I said, listen, if somebody wants to show it in that capacity to have a conversation, I'm fine with that. I'm also fine with it being shown to a group of Israelis who feel very strongly about it. And if you have a problem with that, I said to him, you should leave. It's okay. We'll find another musician. I don't want you to do something you're not comfortable with, but I refuse to have this conversation about like, well, what side are you on?
Well, yeah,
right?
in times like this, movies like yours become a very useful tool to bring a conversation. You make it, and please use it, show it somewhere. As long as you get people talking to each other and doing stuff, you can use a movie or song or whatever. That's the goal of making this movie.
Yeah, I think that's the best outcome of a movie like this can have,
and the best use of it, not just to watch it in theaters, because
absolutely
it's active as the events are happening.
Yeah, I mean, it was a hard movie to get people to see, but I think once they watch it, people understand. They get it, right? Most people understand what's happening with it. It's just hard for people to. It was a challenge for people to get their head around. Like, well, what am I seeing? What is this about? Who is this representing? What are you trying to say? Right? I mean, people. I think we expect. People want things kind of prepackaged for them, and they want them to know. They want to know what it is that they're looking at before they look at it. And I think that's something we resisted and continue to resist.
Well, yeah, that's some people, they want the lazy explanation, so I can get engaged with the story.
Yeah.
But for this one, I mean, the setup is pretty simple. It's an audition, a bunch of people auditioning for a film. But who are they auditioning for? That's when the nuances starts. It's one person, three sides of the same person, and you're just watching the audition process.
Yeah, they all think they got the part when they show up, right? And after the audition, and they say, "Well, I thought I was," and the director says, "Well, you're all a part of him," and so it becomes this competition about, well, who is the real Giuliano? Is he the Israeli? Is he the Palestinian? Is he some version of like the public figure that's something like in between? And, you know, most of the lines of dialogue for the auditions in the first act of the film were taken directly from movies that Giuliano, the human being as an actor, appeared in, because as a Middle Eastern actor in the 1980s and 90s, there's not a lot of parts available to you.
They're stereotypes.
They're all stereotypes. I mean, he was either acting in some really interesting parts for Amos Gitai as an Israeli, an IDF soldier, or any kind of his a militia, person, or some version of an Israeli. And then for the other parts, he was playing, warlords and jihadis, and very limited number of parts that are available, all of which are reduced into these stereotypes. And so that to me was also really interesting, is like what was available to him as an actor, which I think, is what led to his frustration as an actor, because he wanted to be doing more interesting things, right?
Yeah.
Than playing these kinds of parts.
So how was your experience after October 7 with the film? So how did you receive any backlash? Did you show in the film? What happened?
I think as I said, I was on an airplane flying to Poland to show it on October 7th. So we get there immediately as this is happening, and one of our actors actually decided not to come because he felt concerned about his own safety. I mean, when we got to Warsaw on October 8th, there was a different feeling, a different kind of presence on the street with police, right? They were definitely aware of it. But I was surprised that the audience was really kind of receptive and open to having a dialogue about the film. And I think European audiences maybe have a greater capacity for nuance and complexity. And that's why, because they were. But to be honest, anytime we had shown it before in the United States, again, much before October 7th, I was impressed by the audiences there too. But afterwards, it's not like we got more or less pushback. It's the film always had a kind of level of resistance that it had to overcome. We definitely could sense that it was going to be harder for us to try to find a distributor because of the way the film was positioned. But there's really nothing you can do. The film is the film. I can't re-market it as something else, because it's just not that. It's definitely a film that lives in ambiguity.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw it before I saw the date, I thought you just made it. I didn't expect it to be in 2023. And I was like, okay, this guy kind of like foresaw the future to participate in the conversation, or you were getting ready, something?
I don't know. I mean, don't you think this is something that's in the kind of politics of the world in terms of this strife? If you're from there, it hasn't gone away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think in America, in mainstream America, it's come to the front page of what everybody's reading about. But, the viewpoint that we hold is not that radical, or was not that radical before October 7th, right? But becomes almost impossible for people to process after October 7th, because there's no room for understanding or nuance of trying to appreciate what's happening in totality. There's only this side or that side. So I think generally speaking, after October 7th, it's just harder all around, but it was never that easy for this film to begin with, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. How about now? I mean, you said the film is streaming and stuff. Do you have plans to do a theatrical show, like a?
We try. We were never able to find a distributor that was willing to do that. As you know, it's quite expensive to market a film like that for that, and so we never got to do that. Mostly, what we did was we showed it at I think 12 to 14 festivals. And, we almost every festival that we went to, we won some kind of award. So when people actually sat down to see it, I think they appreciated what it was about. But getting it there, No Other Land, which I think was nominated for an Academy Award, couldn't find distribution. Right. So this is a common thing, right? That's happening with films in this arena, that people are very afraid to try to get audiences around them, because I think there's a concern is when you show a film like this publicly, what are you opening yourself up to in terms of, people's safety or the kind of discussion or argument that may happen around a film like this. So nobody is really, jumping up and down to distribute a film like this in theaters, even though I would love for it to do that, because I want people to continue talking about it. I think it's going to continue.
The reason I say it, because right now, after, things have kind of calmed down a little bit and all the events, this is a perfect time to drop this film into theater.
I know.
This is the perfect time for people to go, okay, now we did all the protests and all the bombing and all that stuff. It's time to okay, let's watch this. Most people, assure you, probably they're not familiar with the story of the real Giuliano.
Yeah.
It's a good story to bring up right now.
Absolutely.
So
yeah. I agree. I mean, I just,
it's a crime not to have it in theaters right now.
I agree. I mean, I agree with you on all counts, but I've always believed that. And we always thought that somebody would take a chance on it. It's just, independent film is in crisis, because really good films. I mean, I've worked as a jury on a jury panels for a lot of festivals. I see some incredible films that are being made all over the world. Most of these films will never see the light of day.
Oh yeah, I'm one of them. We work on a zero budget, below the belt kind of stuff. So
it's a labor of love.
Yeah. It is something that you just love and you do it, watch it yourself, and if you're satisfied, that's it.
Absolutely, I agree with you. But it's a tough slog out there, I think, for independent filmmakers. And I was lucky to work with a really a great team of producers. And one of my producers, Braxton Pope, has made a career of working on difficult films. Like, that's all he does. There's no easy films in his right. So it's a really tough business. It's very tough to even finish a film and have the energy to make the next one, because
speaking of that, nerding out on cinema a little bit, since you're a producer, how does that world look like right now
for independent film? I think it's dire.
It is.
Where do you get? I mean, putting the money together for independent films, as far as I understand it, which is not nearly as well as my producers do, I think is getting harder and harder. I think you have to find ways to make movies that can reduce the risk, which means basically casting people that may ensure that your film can go to a festival, right? And that's really what it's become. It's become this game to cast people that are interesting enough or well known enough that a festival will end up caring about it, so that it can go to a festival, hopefully win some awards, and maybe pick up the scent of a distributor. That, to me, is the way it happens. I don't know how films do it when they don't have that.
Also, that brings the next thing is, like, would that jeopardize the freedom of choice when it comes to subject matter?
Possibly. I mean, it depends on the subject matter, right? I mean, I'm always impressed. I mean, I think actors want to work on really interesting material, and if you can get through all of the gatekeepers, they may respond. But the problem is, if you're shopping around an independent film that's got a very low budget and you have very little to pay, maybe you're paying scale, it's going to be very hard for you to get through the gatekeepers unless you have personal relationships. I'm talking about managers and agents, right? To get them the material so that they can even put their eyes on it, right? It really comes down at that point to, like, how do you get the material into somebody's hands so that they have a chance to look at it and say, I really want it.
That's a mystery for me.
Right. But I'm saying that's a mystery for everybody, which is why, getting through those gatekeepers is the hardest part. Getting that material to, I think once the talent gets it in their hands, they're actually quite responsive to good material.
Yeah.
It's just getting it there, right? And I think these days that gets harder and harder. right?
So,
'Cause
so like, and then when the big budget movies back in your days when you did that, how was that process work?
I mean, listen, with big budget films, at least when I was doing it in the very late '90s, early 2000s, right, comes down to a formula. If you're putting together a mid budget film, which they don't really exist anymore, right? It's either really cheap, $5 to $12 million horror films that can make a lot of money, or it's event films, right? Tentpole intellectual property like Wicked or something like that, right? Which was made for a lot of money. But I think that when you're dealing with the studios back then, at least, it came down to the same thing. It's that there were actors that could guarantee you a certain budget. And the way that I was working for a company called Mutual Film for this producer named Mark Gordon and his partner Gary Levinson, and they basically would co-finance films, and it was based on the cast. And if you had a certain actor, you knew that you could get a certain amount of money for them in Germany out of that film fund, and Japan out of a different film fund, and then you kind of piece together your budget territory by territory through foreign sales. And then you would come to Paramount, where we had our deal, and say, look, we've got $35 million because of these actors from all of these different distributors overseas. Do you want to put up the other half for it? And that's how it would work. But it would work because the actors on that, and there were literally spreadsheets that told you what each actor was worth in which territory. So that's the point, is that it comes down to, I think I can, if I get this actor, I think I can get a couple $1 million. If I get Nick Cage for 5 days, but I shoot all his stuff in 5 days, I might be able to squeeze $6.5 to $9 million out of this film.
Wow!
Right? So it becomes a calculation. I mean, it's kind of common knowledge that towards the end of his career, Bruce Willis was doing a lot of like 1 or 2 day shoots where he would get all of his part in like 3 days, and he would make $1 million or a couple $1 million. And because he was in the film, that film could, raise something like $5 to $10 million in a budget. Just for those 3 days.
So you start planning your budget by the actor.
Absolutely. You have to, because the money won't give you money unless you have a certain actor, and the actor won't sign on the dotted line unless you have a certain payday. So it becomes this kind of game of chicken of like, what are you going to get first, the actor or the money?
That's an eye opener, because I always thought, my naive way, I guess, that you have an awesome story, a good script. You start from there. At least that's how I work my way up. We start with the script, we work on it, we nail down the plot, we were all satisfied with everything, it's solid, and then we work forward to finding actors.
Well, as filmmakers, that's what we feel like we have to do. But I think, in my experience, I could be wrong, but in my experience, a mediocre script with a great cast, meaning one that is worth a certain amount of money because they will bring people to a film. And that's really what film festivals want. If you have a movie star or somebody who is a movie star but doing something kind of different in an independent film, that will bring people to the theater. So a mediocre script with a great cast, I think, has more of a chance of getting made than a really interesting script with no cast, or a cast that doesn't add up financially. That's disappointing, but that's the game.
That is very disappointing, because it defeats the purpose of film festivals. There's a ton of film festivals. It's like the arena where you go and you discover things.
Yeah.
I don't go to a film festival to discover Tom Cruise.
I know, but film festivals are now trying to make...
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I go there to find something peculiar someone made that I would probably never see if I didn't go to that festival.
Right.
Or as far as I'm the festival, that's what I would look for, right? But to go there, I mean, this is not...
Well, I don't even think that it's about Tom Cruise, but I just think there's an entire kind of class of actors that are really great in independent film and mean something and can do interesting work, that they would prefer you have over a cast that nobody recognizes. That is an actual reality. I think that film festivals have become as concerned about that. I mean, sure, yes, they want brilliant films, and if it has a narrative, it has a story around it, around the production or something about it. Let's say it was made on an iPhone for $50 and it's brilliant. Like, yeah, there's a narrative there, but I do think when people are thinking about like, how do we get this film into festival, very often it's based on, well, who's in the cast? Because that'll make them pay attention, because then you can get the film to the, you know, the programmer of the festival and skip over all these steps. I mean, imagine that a film like Yes, Repeat, No has to be screened by, you know, went in kind of blind to most festivals, meaning we didn't really know people at the top level at very many festivals. Maybe we had one or two times where we had connections, but when it goes in and it just gets, you know, you have to go through a level of screeners, people who just watch like dozens of films a week to just decide yes or no, and then it goes up and somebody else does the same thing and they rank them, right? That a film has to make it through all of those hurdles before it gets to a real programmer who says, okay, now let me really consider these 10 films that have been distilled from 50 films and decide, is this film something we want to put in our festival? Guess what? They're going to remember the movie star.
Well, the thing is, like, if I was running a film festivals and I ran into a film like yours, I never heard of the guy you based the story on. So that's something super interesting. The subject matter, the film was well made. The plot, you know, it's very psychological. And also the cast. I don't know any of those actors, and they were top notch. Yeah. I would have never discovered them if I didn't give a chance to the movie.
Right.
So your movie didn't need to have A-listers or any weirdness. The cast in the movie are brilliant, and there are many movies like that with people who are from, you know, the random. You just pick your friend from the street, and he turns out to be a great actor, which happened to us once. You know, we were doing some independent short, goofing around, and neighbor, we know him for years, and one day we're like, you know, we're desperate. Hey, you want to come in and act? And then suddenly he's like this amazing actor, and it was like, so you all these people are missing out on these opportunities, festivals on great material, and the actors to be discovered. That is a very alarming situation.
It is. I think it says something about people's capacity to pay attention. I mean, and the number of distractions that are available to them, and how often people will actually sit there and watch a movie from beginning to end. It's getting more and more rare, I think. Right? We live in a kind of attention economy where people's attention has been kind of broken up into small increments that are all being, seduced by other things.
Well, I believe there's enough people out there. There's enough audience for this stuff. I think the festivals are the ones that are missing. They're not willing to take risks.
Yeah, because they're trying to make money.
That's the equation. But I think you will find, or you will develop the audience. Like, there's a lot of people who are capable of, like, you know, changing back, or if you give them a chance. So the festivals are not willing to take a chance or take risk.
They're only willing to take so much risk.
Yeah.
But they're still trying to attract audiences, and they have to wave, you know, something at them, and that thing
something
that they
attractive.
that thing that they wave at them is a name that they recognize.
Yeah.
That's not to say that, you know, it's necessarily a bad thing. Like, there's plenty of really great actors that have name recognition. It's just, as an independent filmmaker, it's really hard to get your material in front of those people. And so, of course, most of us are making films with actors that we think are really good, but may not be known.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the reality that I think wasn't a part of the independent film landscape, you know, 20 years ago, right? I think you still could have a great, interesting film without a lot of cast that was, you know, big name cast, and you could still attract an audience and kind of break through the noise. I just think there's a lot more noise now. And
which is kind of like, I don't know if there's a little bit of a hypocrisy hidden in there. It's like you hear all these people complain about actors playing roles that they're not supposed to be playing. Like, let's say in your film, you actually have people from the region playing the stuff.
Right.
Right. So it's just like, you can't go wrong. And even they know the material, and they argued for real life about the material.
Yeah.
And then in order for you to get this movie, the movie will get attention. Or would you, hire, Tom Hanks to play Israeli or something? I don't know.
Right.
So it's kind of like there's a certain level of hidden hypocrisy in there.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I don't disagree. I think sometimes the best person for the part is not the person who will get you the most attention. That's a real thing. You know, that's just how it's a business. That's why it's a business, and it's not. This is not an. It's not an art form, because I think as an art form, it would always be about the experimentation. So it's kind of a hybrid art form business, right? Cinema is always negotiating between those two things, because if you don't have enough money, you can't make the movie, you know, which is why, you know, people might be getting excited about making movies outside of the system using, you know, technology and new tools like AI, et cetera, like it, because it allows you to just do it without all this financing.
Fair enough. I mean, to change the subject a little bit to something lighter, I noticed one of your film, you did a movie about, I didn't get a chance to dive into it, Jean-Luc Godard, The Picture. What was that about?
Yeah, that's a film that I made in 2014 or 15, and it was a short experimental film that went to Tribeca and Rotterdam, played a lot of really interesting film festivals, and that was also a kind of lucky find, where I was reading something about how Godard used the budget for one of his films to try to design a film camera, a 35 millimeter film camera that was handheld. I mean, this is like, we're talking about like the, you know,
60s.
late 70s, early 80s. He was trying to get a camera that could record sound, but was small enough that he could hand hold it, because of course he wanted to be much looser with his filmmaking.
Yeah.
And when he made, he had a camera engineer kind of do a couple of prototypes, but when he made the film itself, it was too loud, meaning the mechanics of the camera was too loud, so it couldn't record sound, and it had trouble focusing. And I thought it was a really interesting object to make a film about, because it failed at the two things that a camera absolutely had to do, which was record sound and picture. And so the film is called 2 Points of Failure. And actually, Braxton Pope, who produced this film, also produced that film. And I was basically trying to dissolve a piece of film in a chemical bath and film the dissolution of this piece of film. And I was using a still from one of the movies that he had used he actually ended up using this, you know, he wanted something that he could fit in a glove box and he could just take it out and shoot whatever he saw, because again, he's very improvisational filmmaker,
he's
right?
a very spontaneous kind of guy, you know.
And I can appreciate
French Wave, he was part of it, so.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that, because I think there's parts of the filmmaking process of like shoot the two shot and then stop and relight and now
sometimes
shoot the
you don't want to wait, you're going to grab it as it happens.
It's just so like, I think that's what led us to the process that we used in Yes Repeat No, which is like, how do we shoot for like 25 minutes at a time? So that film was basically just about this camera. And actually,
I couldn't find the film, because I looked, what that caught my attention. I was reading your resume and I was like, I want to see this.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it. It's not, I'll send you a link to it. And I'm actually just kind of revising and updating my website, so it will be up on my website in the next.
Yeah, I would love to check it out, because also the problem you described in that film for Godard, you know, trying to find the camera with all this functionality. It's the same thing right now. What's his name? Christopher Nolan. They shot The Odyssey, and for the first time, he used IMAX the whole time. So I read they developed this box to contain the camera, and because it's a loud camera also,
right.
So they can achieve that by filming, you know, everything, the whole film with it, so it goes back full circle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are very cumbersome cameras. I mean, think about the size of a 35 millimeter camera when Hitchcock was shooting, you know, cameras. They're like, you know, they're massive. They can't move around very well. So I can appreciate his desire to do that, but it also explains to you why he just gave up on trying to hide the lights and hide the cameras, because it really frees you up, because then you don't have to worry about being perfect.
That's it. You go about your story and you just ignore the rest of the setting. Yeah. So what's your new projects? Are you working on something coming up next?
I mean, I'm in the kind of, you know, for me, it takes a lot of research to try to find my way to another project. But right now I'm interested in the CIA's kind of experiments with hallucinogenics, MK Ultra, that kind of stuff. So I'm thinking about something having to do with that set in a bipolar fascist democracy, something that would, I think, is very relevant to our experience of the world right now. But I really, that just means me doing research for the next 6 to 8 months to try to find a story that I think is interesting. And then, of course, go through the process of like trying to raise money and doing that whole thing, which is a part of this that is the kind of most excruciating part.
The dreadful part.
Yeah, I want to get on to making a film. I'm also, very curious about how to deploy AI in a kind of hybrid process, right? I don't think it's really there in terms of the kind of precision that you need to have to kind of make a film completely beginning to end.
Yeah, it's not there yet.
It's not there yet. But I do think it's there when it comes to like, environments and locations and trying to kind of hybridize the process of doing visual effects and things like that. And so I'm kind of curious in terms of how to push the medium that way, because again, as an independent filmmaker, I want to use every opportunity I can to kind of push the medium and use the tools that are available. So I know there's a ton of hesitation, and I know a lot of things have to be worked out in terms of the likenesses of actors, but I'm not willing to just dismiss it as a possible.
No, we were just recently talking about it, me and my friend Tim. Yeah, there's a lot of hype around the apocalyptic side of it. It's for like, people just trying to get you to click on stuff for headlines. I don't think it's that bad. It's just a tool that you need to learn and figure out the benefits and how to use it or how to include it in any process, not just filmmaking. And the AI is just sitting there, waiting for someone to tell it what to do.
Right. Well, I can see a scenario where it could turn out very badly. I'm definitely aware, but I also think there are ways in which it could be used not to that end, but it remains to be seen. Like who the hell knows? Yes, it could kill us all. I mean, that is a very real possibility that we have to contend with because we're, just kind of like silly apes making better tools, and those tools might end up being smarter than we are. That's not out of the question, but I'm still curious about as a filmmaker.
I mean, as of now, I mean, for filmmaking, like you said, it's not there yet. I remember trying to experimenting with it. I couldn't get it to get me a shot that I wanted exactly from a specific angle. Exactly. It was
the precision is not there. It's getting them. It's getting there.
Communicate it to a person and give them a camera, and they will get me the shot.
Yeah.
In 2 seconds.
You're seeing, I mean, everybody knows that that's what's missing. And so a lot of people, I think, are working on getting that level of precision. But I don't think it's quite there yet, and I've played around with it quite a bit and I've tried to make things that I can control. And you can make a funny, stupid, 12-second clip that you don't control much of, but to have the kind of precision that most directors want to have, because we're kind of control freaks, it's really, really painstaking. It takes a lot of work to get it there.
It's not sustainable enough for a full feature movie, not even for a short movie, to be honest.
I mean, I've seen some shorts that have been made, but I also wonder what the kind of level of precision is. There is stuff, people are doing it. It's going to happen. I don't doubt it.
It is going to happen.
Somebody's going to make something really interesting.
But for those shorts, I want to see the script and then compare.
Right. Right.
I mean?
Yeah. Well, listen, that, somebody who makes films, that kind of accident or surprise is part of the filmmaking process. You don't always, I mean, with our film, for example, we had a script and we shot the script and then we edited the script. We did an assembly and we looked at it and it was like, well, that's the script I wrote, but it's not very interesting this way. So then we started to have to then there was a whole other process that was another year and a half of like, well, let's rewrite the film as as editors. Like we're rewriting the film in the editing process.
So how long did production take?
Production itself was, we shot for 10 days. like 10
Straight.
shooting days on set, 8-hour days. We didn't have any money for overtime. It was like 2 hours in the hair and makeup and wardrobe, and 6 hours on the stage every day. 6 hours, start shooting and don't stop shooting until the end of the day, right? We might have gone over one afternoon. We had about 4 or 5 months to edit the first act. Actually, let's see. No, we shot in July, August, September, October. We had 10 weeks to do the first cut of the first act, which is what became the gallery exhibition. And then we probably spent another year and a half to edit the entire film, because we had 250 hours of footage from 6 different cameras.
Long take.
Right. So I was actually working as the assistant editor for my editor. I was one of the AEs, because I was logging all the footage, because I was the one who knew which was the good take. When I would see it, I'd be like, yeah, that's the one that I really liked. So that process was excruciating and long, and sometimes difficult and sometimes surprising. And my 2 editors, Alex Tyson and Benjamin Shern, who finished the film with us, I think did a brilliant job. I mean, Ben, towards the end, like, if I had imagined my film, he got exactly what I wanted. Like that at the end, it was like, that's it. We did it.
I mean, watching the film was an experience, to be honest. It's like it starts slow and then you climb with it. And the ending, you don't expect it. You don't see it. And I remember watching the movie. I got the link to watch the movie. It was literally the day I had tooth surgery.
Okay.
So I was with the numbness thing, and I laid in bed and I was like, I got to watch this movie, to prepare for it. I put it on. The pain started coming up, but I got sucked into the movie literally so deep. I don't remember the rest of the pain and everything. Kind of like went away.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to pick up pain meds and I didn't.
Right.
So it was kind of like pain medication of just focusing on something that was so intriguing that by the time the movie ended, everything went away.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad it took the pain away for a little bit. I mean, it was kind of like, so there were some times in the editing process that were kind of funny, because we'd have to cut. I knew we had to cut like 8 minutes or something, and I didn't know what to cut anymore. At some point, you're like, everything is nothing.
You run out of what to cut.
I don't want to get rid of anything, and I would have to tell Benjamin. I'd be like, listen, man, just cut it and don't even tell me, and let's just see if I notice what you cut. Right, like, and then because I know that if you say, should I cut this, I'm just going to fight you on everything. So
you're not.
Like I would be like, no, there's a reason. So he would just cut things, and then I was like, but leave it nearby in case I remember that I really want it. Like, just leave it in a pile that we can go back to. And he would do these cuts, and again, I would miss it, but it was like, look, nobody wants to see a 2.5 hour movie, independent film. It's very rare that if you go to film festivals and you sit through a program of films, even short films, you will start looking at your watch way before you'd expect it to. You look at your watch at like 2.5 minutes, and it's like you think you'd been there for 10, 15 minutes. And that's, I think, a really good lesson for filmmakers is go sit through, 10 short films in a row at some point and see exactly. Your audience is very astute. They can read the film and know what's going on. It's very hard to keep them in the dark, but still engaged. And I think that it was, our film ended up at 98 minutes. It's like, I almost wish it could have been 82 minutes, but we just couldn't find where else to cut, because I do think that audiences are so astute that it's very hard to stay ahead of them and surprise them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, because usually when I watch movies, I always have like an idea. I was like, if I was him, I can cut this.
Right.
I don't remember noticing any of that. If I noticed, I would have told you. But I would know. It was like, hey, you could have done away with a couple of minutes here or there.
Yeah.
But didn't feel that way.
It becomes a real struggle when it's your own work. Right?
I mean, I understand that. I stress out when I'm cutting our movies here and doing them. The same struggles. Like, you don't want to get rid of anything.
Of course.
It's like that.
It's all
battle. And sometimes I have my friend with me here who's like, okay, I'll let him just decide, okay, we're going to take this out.
It's always good to have a friend who hasn't seen the film at all.
Yep.
Because they're fresh, they have no attachment to any outcome.
And they're neutral.
To have them just say, like, get rid of this. Like, it doesn't work. Get rid of it.
Yeah. They help you decide the pace, which is the most important part of the film when you're cutting it.
Yeah.
Right.
And it can feel like a very short film can feel very slow. And that's a problem, you know. And you can make a longer film that doesn't feel slow. It's all about pacing. I think one of the things that I think worked well about this process is we were editing for so long that we would have kind of periods of time where we would just take a week off and just put it away and not have to look at it, and then come back to it and say, okay, now I know I can cut this. You know, like you get less precious with it. I bet I could find.
That's actually one of the practices that I do is like, you know, when you're sucked in the room cutting something for days or hours, you lose perspective. Totally. The best thing to do is get away from it for 10 days.
Yeah.
And come back and watch it.
Yeah.
You know immediately which mistake you made and which good thing.
Even watching it with an audience, like watching it in a room with other people, even like 3 people, like, you know, you get a sense of what's not working just because you're sitting there with people. So that's also really helpful.
Yeah.
Right?
So how expensive was this film? Did you?
It was a few $100,000. I mean, I think in the end it ended up being like 230, 250. Like it was.
Wow, that's not bad.
Not bad, but it's still, you know, it's a lot of money. It was, you know, self-financed, friends and family. It's still, it goes very quickly. A lot of it goes into post-production. A lot of it, you know.
Rental? Do you rent the gear or?
Yeah, I mean, we had a great, listen, we got because of the kind of level of producers that I had, we got a lot of stuff for cheap. We had a great camera crew, an amazing DP named BJ Strongman. So, you know, we basically knew how much we had that we could spend, and we knew it was only going to be good for 10 days. And so the point was like, how do you maximize those 10 days so that you're shooting as much as you possibly can? Yeah. And a lot of the kind of techniques of the film are based around like, how do we maximize this location where we don't move, we're all in one location, we set up a stage, we set up track, we set up cameras, they're always the same cameras and track, and we've kind of wired it to be able to record sound anywhere and everywhere on the stage, and the stage was revolving. That was the another kind of piece of it, was like, how do you open up a space that's very claustrophobic so that people can move around, do walk and talks. And that's kind of how we devised this idea of the circular stage, because I wanted people to be able to walk over here, over there, you know, have their own kind of conversations away from other people, feel like they were moving dynamically in a space that was very confined.
The plot of the movie worked to your advantage for production wise, because you know, it's one location, but it's interactive. You don't get bored, and you have all this weird stuff happening. And of course, you know, the actors, they suck you into their own battle of going through all that decision-making stuff.
And I kind of wrote it to be in one location because I knew, like, I don't have a lot of money for this.
Yeah, you can't go out. Yeah, you did it.
So I think it's some of it is just like what you want to do artistically, but then a lot of it is like problem-solving problems of filmmaking.
Yeah, it's problem-solving every day.
Every day.
Yeah, every day brings problems.
I mean, you know, one problem we faced was we've realized that the reason the stage that we rented was so cheap, right, because we got a really good rate on it, and we were like, wow, this is actually affordable, was that it wasn't soundproof. So you could hear the garbage truck picking up the garbage outside because it wasn't soundproof. And so there was this whole like side story of like me going outside to tell people to be quiet because we realized 3 days in that it wasn't soundproof. So we just had to work around it. We would just have to do our takes when that wasn't happening and hope, cross fingers that nobody was going to come, or we'd have to have somebody stationed outside telling, you know, the delivery vans or whatever to just not make any noise. I mean, it was like stuff like that.
I think everyone who makes an independent film runs into a moment like that.
Yeah.
You're like doing something on the street, you know, you're for free, you're not controlling it, and everything is going good. You say action, a motorcycle passes by.
I know.
That's it.
Yeah. So we had stuff like that. We had, you know, we lost one of our lead actors the night before. You know, an actor who was Israeli, who was supposed to play the Yael, the director, who decided, hey man, I'm not comfortable with this. I need you to change some of the lines.
Really?
Because I'm concerned about my career as an actor in Israel if I participate in a project like this. And I said, well, you have to, then you can't be in the film. We're not going to change the kind of point of view of this film because you have hesitations. You knew, I mean, this is a person I had been rehearsing with for a week, right? And working with, and so one night or two nights before we shot, I called Salome, who was one of our top choices. I mean, it was like between Salome and this other actor, and I said, are you still interested in the part? And we got together to talk about it. Here's one of the other problem-solving things I think that was really crafty about this is that because they're playing actors who are auditioning, they didn't have to be off book when they showed up for the first day of production. Right, holding scripts in their hands was part of it.
That's a good. Right? That's a
so
good.
Like I didn't have to ask them to, because imagine having to memorize all of that
and
dialogue.
It saves you time from doing all the the script assistant and all the lines and all that
continuity, all that stuff. Yeah, because it's in their hand, and so that saved us. And then another thing was my producer Sarah Salovitz devised this system where we printed all of these quotes by major political figures. You can see them in the film. They're on V-flats. We just printed them big and put them up. And we told the actors, just whenever you feel like it and you see a line that you want, just write it into your script and just put it in. Don't even tell us. And what was interesting is that you had like the Palestinian actor saying things that maybe Shimon Peres said or Netanyahu said, and then you'd have the Israeli actor saying things that Arafat had said. But because this conflict has been going on for decades and decades and decades, people's ideas about it, major political figures, their ideas about it have flip-flopped so many times that you don't really know who's saying what at what time, and so it might be Golda Meir that's saying something that you thought was something coming out of somebody else's mouth, right? So that also became like this kind of improvisational scripting that happened. So again, like it was very loose. It was I had to be very comfortable with things being very loose because it was impossible to control something that well when you were trying to shoot in long stretches, so we had to keep it very loose and sloppy, and like continuity couldn't really be an issue because that just takes a lot of time.
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, this conflict, like it evolved so much. I think it became this kind of like a playground for certain elites that they want to keep it going. They don't want to keep it going. It kind of like got off the hands of the people. Because honestly, I mean, I'm pretty sure and a lot of people know, there are a lot of instances, a lot of people, and a lot of stories where Israelis and Jewish and Palestinians and whoever else, they get along, they're doing business. You're making movies with some of them, you know what I mean? So outside of the big headlines, people get along.
Yeah,
but it seems like there are other people who are like, this became like a game or some sort of a business. It's like we have to keep it going because it keeps things interesting. I don't know what they're trying to get out of it, but people are capable of getting away from it if you let them do their own thing.
It wasn't even such a radical idea for Palestinians and Israelis to work together.
Exactly.
It's just now it seems to be this thing that people are stuck on. But again, 10, 15, 20 years ago, even in America, that wasn't such a terrible thing to think.
No, it happens every day. That's a thing. It happens every day at a smaller level, microscopic level in societies. People are doing things together all the time.
Right.
They don't show you that as much as they show you the...
Yeah. Well, the algorithm loves conflict.
Yeah.
Right.
And, that algorithm started before the algorithm. It was newspapers and stuff. So the algorithm is new, he just came late to the game.
Right. Right. Yeah, nobody buys or clicks for harmony or peace, really.
Well, Mr. Michael, thank you very much, man.
Of course.
It was very enlightening and eye-opening conversation.
Yeah, if you send me an email, I will send you a link to that other film.
I will definitely do that. I would love to see that film.
Awesome.
And I will send you a script so you can give me your opinion on it.
Sure. Love it. Thanks, man.
As a producer.
Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to hearing the podcast when it comes out. No problem.
I will be having another conversation with you when you have your next film come out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Please do it. I want to see the CIA tripping on some drugs.
Of course. You do.
All right. Have a good evening.